So the piece of equipment that I chose was the rowing machine. I chose this just based off of the overall benefit that it would provide for the organization that I had in mind. So for this piece of equipment, its intended use is to provide cardiovascular training or activity while reducing the overall impact to the body um, that, say, treadmill running or jumping, those sort of activities create. So the equipment itself, it's going to work through a pulley system. Basically, the individual is pulling the handles and then slowly bringing it back towards the body of the piece of equipment. There's different types of pulley systems. There's water-based, there's air-based, cylinder-based, but they all operate under that pulley mechanism. In terms of validity and reliability, overall reliability was pretty good. It was able to, repetitively track distance, pace, that sort of thing. But validity, there were a couple other pieces of equipment that maybe were more accurately able to measure cardiovascular fitness. So, for example, a study done by University of Bedfordshire did a VO2 max test on the treadmill and a VO2 max test on the rowing machine. Um, and the one on the treadmill was more accurately able to assess heart rate and VO2 max. So those numbers for the treadmill test were higher than they were for the rowing machine. However, we can't discredit the rowing machine as a whole just because it didn't perform quite as well on the VO2 max test. It was still able to bump up those heart rate values, and it did give us a VO2 max. Maybe it just was not quite as accurate. So it still provides that cardiovascular training, but it might not be the best one to use when testing, for example. So there's other factors that might play into it. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the subtype of rower, that mechanism the pulley operates by, might change the overall reliability of the rower when compared to others. But as a whole, it's a good piece of equipment, and it was pretty much standard across the board until you get down to those finer details. So the organization that I had in mind when using this piece of equipment was a sports performance facility. So after doing research and seeing its reliability, its validity, and populations it's best suited for, I felt that this piece of equipment would provide a great benefit to this facility. So this facility currently does not have any rowing equipment, and I wanted to include this equipment with this place because it provides, really great cardiovascular benefits while taking out that impact portion of most cardiovascular exercises. So this facility itself sees a lot of athletes who need cross training in some part of their programming, whether they're coming from off season or they're currently in off season and they need some of that lower impact cardiovascular exercise. This is a great tool to use to provide that. So reducing their overall forces and impact on the body, which they already get from that sport specific training. Other athletes that we see include athletes that need rehabilitation. So this is a great piece of equipment for them because it takes out that impact and it forces them to create that great form, bending the knees, keeping the chest upright, while still keeping them in good position and taking that impact out, which a lot of them are not able to have impact early on in the rehabilitation process. So moving on to maintenance, overall very little maintenance was needed. So that was another benefit of purchasing this piece of equipment. It's basically monthly cleaning, making sure that screws are tightened, the seat is moving smoothly, and keeping all the dust out of the system itself. So it's just lubricating the whole system and keeping it clean. And if that is maintained, then I saw that the overall lifespan was years, especially in home use. But for the amount that the facility would pay for, having this piece of equipment for that long is going to be a great benefit, especially for the price that they're paying. Upon researching the types of rowers, the brands, that sort of thing, Concept 2 seemed to be the best brand out there for what you're paying for. So a lot of these pieces, especially the Model D, which was the most widely used among athletes and general fitness populations, it ran for about $900 to $1,000, depending on the piece itself. So for this type of equipment, it was really great, extremely reasonable, and with all the cardiovascular benefits it provides, the amount of populations that it can serve, and the low impact that it's going to create, it's a really great piece of equipment. I would 100% be worth investing in for this facility.